I have told this story at 3 separate disciplinary reviews, and each time the panel asks me to clarify why I described a Concord certified compliance auditor as underwhelming in a transcript that is now, regrettably, part of the permanent record. I will tell it once more here, plainly, the way I should have told it the first time. I am a senior Verity clerk of the Cradle Vault, 3rd tier, stationed aboard Aldros Hold, under charter, from the Concord Heritage Bureau. My caste does not fight, does not pilot, does not negotiate. We keep records. We keep them so carefully that a single misdated signature can end a clerk's career, which is, I would point out now, exactly why none of us saw this coming. The vault's centerpiece is a recording we call the first auditor. 91 years old, 11 minutes long, grainy past the point of real detail, a lone human figure walking into a falsified ledger house during the early contact years and unraveling, in a single sitting, a fraud that had quietly drained 6 member worlds for a decade. We do not know the figure's name. The footage cuts before the credentials are read aloud. That gap is the whole reason the legend works. An unnamed human who simply could not be lied to and ask for nothing in return. We play it during oath-takings. Junior clerks weep at it. I wept at it, my 2nd year on the hold, and felt nothing but pride about that for the 30 years since. So when the decennial accreditation notice came through, a live human compliance auditor, dispatched from the Bureau to certify our holdings in person, the first such visit in 2 full cycles, the entire vault treated it, without anyone quite admitting it, as a kind of pilgrimage. We aired the corridor lighting. We rehearsed the unveiling sequence twice. Senior Clerk Pell wanted to burn ceremonial resin at the entrance, which is not a custom humans observe in any way, and I had to explain that to him twice before he let it go, muttering that it would have set the right tone regardless. The auditor's name was Dana Okafor. She came through the lock in a gray weatherproof jacket, with a travel mug in one hand and a satchel of physical printouts over her shoulder, looked at the honor cordon we had assembled, 6 clerks, formal sashes, the good lighting, and asked where the washroom was. I am not proud of what I said next. I said it to Pell, quietly, in Ossaran, on the reasonable assumption that she could not understand a syllable of it, that the Bureau must be running short-staffed to send someone this unremarkable to certify the most celebrated record in the archive. Pell laughed before he could stop himself. I did not think to check whether her translator earpiece was active. It was. She gave no sign that she'd heard it. She found the washroom on her own, came back, declined the seating we had arranged at the head of the hall, and asked instead for the chain of custody ledgers, the unglamorous ones, the sign-in sheets, the climate logs, the transfer manifests nobody had pulled from storage in 40 years. We had spent 2 weeks preparing the wrong half of the file for her, and she walked past all of it without slowing down. I tried twice more to give her the experience we had planned for. I offered the formal unveiling of the first auditor recording, the version we reserve for visiting dignitaries, the dimmed hall, the swelling introduction Pell had written and rewritten. She watched all 11 minutes of it standing up, drinking from her travel mug, and said, when it ended, "Okay, where's the source paperwork on this one?" Not awed. Not even particularly interested. The way I would not be particularly interested in a colleague's lunch. Just another item on a list to be filed correctly. That was when I stopped being subtle about it. I asked, in front of 3 junior clerks who had come specifically to watch her watch the recording, whether the Bureau trained its auditors to appreciate history at all, or only spreadsheets. She didn't look up from the ledger she was already cross-referencing against the manifest. She said the Bureau trained her to appreciate accuracy, and that history, as a category, belonged to a different department than hers. Pell, who outranks me by 1 stamp and has never let me forget it, tried his own approach after that. The gracious host approach, offering her a guided tour of the lower stacks, the climate control vaults, the relic wing, all the parts of the vault built to impress a visiting dignitary. She thanked him and asked if the lower stacks had their own access ledger, because the climate logs she already had didn't match the manifest by 9 days, and she'd like to know why before she went anywhere new. Pell's collar feathers, such as they are on an ossuarin and formal sash, do not actually move on their own. I have known him 40 years, and I would swear they tried to. It took her 4 hours to find what she was looking for. She did not ask for refreshments, did not ask to sit somewhere more comfortable, did not so much as glance back at the recording playing on quiet loop at the end of the hall. She pulled 3 more ledgers, cross-checked a supply manifest against a duty roster from 91 years prior, asked our archive assistant for the original, undigitized transcript twice, because the first scan had a gap she didn't trust, and made notes in a small paper notebook of her own, the kind we had assumed humans stopped carrying generations ago. I watched most of those 4 hours with the specific, comfortable patience of a person certain he will eventually be vindicated. She found it in a supplementary report, hand-logged, never digitized, filed under a clerical code nobody had queried since the year it was written. The report had not been filed by the figure in our recording. It had been filed by an aide, junior, unranked, present in the ledger house that day only to carry equipment for someone more senior. The aide's written account of how the fraud was actually traced predates the recorded confrontation by 6 hours, and contains every material fact our footage later dramatizes for an audience. The figure in the recording had been handed that report, walked into frame, and performed the unveiling for 6 member worlds who preferred a single dramatic face to an unglamorous written account with a junior name attached to it. We had spent 91 years building reverence around the performance, and filed the actual work in a drawer with the wrong clerical code, where it has sat, correctly shelved and entirely forgotten, the whole time. Dana set the report on the table between us, and turned it so I could read the signature myself. "Your citation's wrong," she said. "It's been wrong the entire time you've had it." She did not say it like a verdict. She said it the way she might have mentioned that the printer was low on toner, a fact requiring a follow-up action, nothing more. I asked, because some part of me genuinely could not stop the question forming, whether she understood what she had just done to the vault's founding record. She said she understood that the founding record had a name missing from it for 91 years, and that putting a missing name back where it belonged was the only part of her job description she actually cared about. Then she asked whether there was a second washroom on this level, because the tap in the first one had a slow drip, and somebody really ought to file a maintenance order before it reached the lower archive shelving. I am told the formal correction will take 11 months to clear bureau review. I am told the recording stays on display in the meantime, with an amended placard, because pulling it now would cost the vault more credibility than the original error ever did. I am told, by Pell, that I have not stopped quoting her about the tap to anyone who will stand still long enough to listen, and that this is, in his exact words, a strange thing to fixate on, given everything else that happened that week. He is not wrong. I have spent most of my career certain the first auditor recording was the truest thing in this vault, the one record needing no footnote, no committee to argue its meaning. I understand now I loved it, because it asked nothing of me. It was finished, already happened, somewhere I had never been, to someone I would never meet, and all that was left was to admire it from a respectful distance, which is easier than the work itself. Dana never looked at it that way. To her it was a record with a hole in it, sitting in the same drawer as everything else that needed checking. I think about it anyway. She walked out of the hall that had just quietly unmade 91 years of our most sacred footage, and the last thing on her mind was not the footage, or the correction, or the 11 months of paperwork now stacked on someone's desk because of her. It was a tap that needed fixing before it became somebody else's worse week. We had spent 91 years admiring a face that performed a discovery for an audience. We finally met the discovery itself, in person, on a Tuesday, and she wanted to know where the bathroom was. It is, I have come to think, the most honest tribute the Cradle Vault has ever paid to the thing it claims to revere, though I have stopped saying that part out loud in front of the review panel. They do not find it as funny as Pell and I do.